ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is HD, and it's time for game number 4 here between Dignitas Killer and MVP Tails in the Grand Finals of MSI's Pro Cup number 11. It is for 800 and 300 euros respectively, and we will see what we will see here. Tails is the orange Protoss at the top left-hand corner of the map. Down at the bottom right, we have Dignitas Killer as the yellow Zerg. And so far, it has been an very exciting series. I lack for words here because we've seen Tails try to go for the all-in last game. It actually kind of worked, you know. He killed off the hatchery, and then we can see the cog turning in his head. What do I do now? I just killed off the enemy Zerg hatchery. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get Robotics Facility and Blink with Twilight Council, but then he got his Stalkers caught in the middle of the field, and was that like the worst catch ever for a Protoss player or what? That could not have gone any worse for MVP Tails. So we'll see what happens here in game number 4. So far, Dignitas Killer up in this series 2-1. The map is the classic Tal'Darim Altar, and cross spawn has been enabled, and it looks like we're going to have a pretty long game here, I would imagine, between these two sides, unless of course Tails decides to go once again for that classic Tails all in up in your face when you least expect it. I cancel my Nexus and I'm in your base with all of my units. So that would be pretty fun to see, I guess, again, if Tails really doesn't feel that comfortable playing a macro game. But you know, so far it's been very rare that we've seen Tails go for that third Nexus and actually keep it. You know, go for the third Nexus and not cancel it. That has definitely not been his conventional playstyle. But anyways, he does have a pylon at the front right now. He has a forge at the front as well. This is the Grand Finals of MSI's StarCraft 2 tournament, and we'll see what happens. Spawning pool is down. Looks like the probe has made its way inside the base. We've seen Tails consecutively try to block off the hatchery or at least get some pylon cannon harass down. Hasn't really been successful the times that I've seen it, because when Zergs go for spawning pool first, it's very hard to pull off any cannon harass. And so I don't think Tails is going to try that. We did have a cancelled extractor, but maybe just for the extractor trick. And there it is, 19-18, and Zerglings have made their way out in the field. Wow, 6 Zerglings. And maybe Killer just, you know, because of the playstyle of Tails, because of the constant cannon harass, that's why he decided to go ahead and make so many Zerglings. But it is going to hurt a little bit, because usually most Zergs would just make 2, maybe 4, and try to drone up underneath that. But not the case this time, as those Zerglings are really making their way across the field. And MVP Tails should be getting some cannons up. And there we go, 2 photon cannons now at the front door in a very interesting position. 2 photon cannons. So MVP Tails probably saw those Zerglings and was like, wow, that's a lot more Zerglings than you usually see. And so he made that extra cannon, and that is going to be able to ward those Zerglings away. Nexus now coming up under the protection of those double photon cannons, as is a gateway. And Tails now beginning to throw down the gas on one of his assimilators. No scratch at, that will be a double assimilator from MVP Tails. Looks like there was a pylon that tried to go up inside the Zerg natural expansion, but that was easily dispatched of, with the Zerglings already being on the map for some time. And now Dignitas Killer quickly working down the third rocks. As a Zerg player, I can say this is one of the annoying features on this map. Sometimes you just don't know where you're going to go for that third hatchery, and that might have factored into Killer's decision to make this extra sets of Zerglings, because with the extra sets of Zerglings, he can actually break down the rocks and not have to rely on roaches or something else, and not have to rely on building the hatcheries somewhere in some oblique location. So that actually kind of makes a lot of sense as to why he made those extra Zerglings. Those rocks are eventually going to go down with the Zerglings pounding on them. And right now there is one Zergling chasing away this probe. Gonna try to kill it off before it can get a scout on the rocks, and it looks like he will kill off the probe. Nice control right there by Dignitas Killer. Didn't want to reveal that the rocks had been taking some damage already, which of course in of itself says, hey, I'm going for a third hatchery. That sound you just heard right there was my puppy sneezing. Don't know why she's sneezing. It is hot as hell right now. I feel like I'm sitting next to Diablo in his Chaos Sanctuary, but literally like 110 degrees outside right now. Right? Pretty hot. Yes. All right. So there is a Forge researching +1 weapons, and there is a Gateway and a Cybernetics Core getting their upgrades going right now. It looks like a Zealot at the front door going to be able to block that off. But what I'm really interested to see is Tails going to go for that all-in again? Is he going to throw down the gateways, and is he going to go for some 7-gate all-in, or is he going to go for the Robo Warp Prism all-in, or is he going to go for DTs? Who knows, right? It's like always up in the air when you play against Tails, and you know, being Protoss, you have that element of surprise. That's like one of the main features of playing Protoss, is having surprise on your side. And it looks like Tails is actually going to work down the rocks with a Zealot and Sentry. So we may just yet see a macro game, but of course, I'm hesitant to say that. I am a little hesitant because we saw him cancel the Nexus already. But we'll see what happens. Hatchery finally coming down for Dignitas Killer. A little bit delayed because of the rock feature on Touter and Malter. Creep Spread beginning to work its way out. How many queens does Killer have? Just 2 right now. And doesn't have a 3rd one on the way yet. But usually you want to get 3 to 4 queens out when you're going for this Roach-style build. At the max Roach-style build that so many Zergs are using now against Protoss. And it looks like, oh, we did have an Overlord that got killed off, but not before it got inside, and it did see just 2 gateways. So nothing too crazy. When you see 2 gateways, it's not like, oh yeah, that's something really weird. Usually Protoss needs at least a couple of gateways in order to play a standard game. So nothing too important revealed right there. And I do like how Tails is kind of just throwing a couple of gateways down. He's not investing everything into one area where it can be easily scouted. So he can throw 2 gateways here, and then he can throw 2 gateways back here, and then he can throw 2 gateways over here, and then he can go for a 7-gate all-in, if that's what he plans to do. Right now he is working down those rocks, so we'll see what happens. Zergling's positioned on the map right now on the eastern seaboard, just ready and waiting to pick off any type of scouting probe that may try to dare lay a finger on a proxy pylon. And right now it looks like the Forge is starting to finish up ground armor. Robotics facility is coming for MVP Tails. So now I'm more inclined to think, okay, he's actually going to play a macro game, and there is a Nexus on the way at the 3rd with gateway walling coming in, so I'm pretty sure here Tails will be playing a standard game. That Overlord could not be more valuable than, I think it's the most valuable Overlord you've ever seen, man. And it should actually be parked here for a pretty long time just to confirm whether or not that Nexus gets canceled. This is actually a map where it's hard to pull off that all-in because of the Overlord that can be scouting right here on the perch. So for now, it looks like Killer knows exactly what's going on. There is a Blink upgrade coming up in the background, and that's actually on the Twilight Council right next to the main Nexus. And we'll see if Tails decides to cancel this Nexus or not. We'll see. There is an Overlord there, like I said before, but Killer did move it a little farther away, so he can't exactly see if the Nexus is canceled. Zergling still in their same exact positions. Zergling controlling the Xel'Naga Tower just outside the Protoss main base. And Robotics Facility beginning to chrono boost the Observers. So we're going to have some Observers hitting the field here. And right now, Dignitas Killer playing that Roach Max style is 75 drones in the game right now and can begin to max out Roaches. I think he might be just a little bit behind. You will note when you watch Stefano play, he's maxed out on Roaches about any time between now and 12 minutes. Dignitas Killer just a little bit later in that. He's not exactly as, I guess, as good when it comes to macro like Stefano is, but still pretty good macro. You know, he's starting to build up those Roaches right now, and we'll probably see him hit the max Roach mount, the Rax Roach amount around 12 minutes and 30 seconds, I want to say. 1 more minute is what he needs to really get that many Roaches on the field. He is a little supply blocked right now. That's going to give MVP Tails a little bit of breathing room, because if he was playing Stefano right now, it would just be 200 Roaches at your door. Lol, trollolol, what do you do about that? And thankfully, Tails doesn't have to worry about that. The Roaches are actually a little bit more delayed. One factor of that might be because of the rocks blocking the hatchery here, and I think that's actually playing a big role as to why the Roaches aren't maxed out quite yet from Dignitas Killer. But Killer is making his way out across the field right now with his Roaches and Zerglings, and now it's all about the Zerg applying pressure on the Protoss. Of course, the 3rd area, the backdoor area here, is sealed off with warp gates, so it makes it a little bit more difficult for Roaches to pound their way through that. But there is an Observer in the middle of the field here, able to scout out enemy troop movement. It sees that Killer is maxing out Roaches right now and going for that frontal Roach attack, but there's already 2 Immortals out here, and that makes it a little bit more difficult, I think, for Killer to bust through into that army. By the way, guys, you'll note there's a Spire coming up from Killer, and I mentioned this before in this cast. Killer's one of those guys that likes to go for mutas once in a while, and he's saving up actually a lot of minerals and gas, so we are going to have a total switch into mutas from Killer. He's going to try to flip the table here and go for, he's got 2,000 minerals and 2,000 gas saved up. He's going to go for mass muta here, but his army gets cut off, intercepted, just like the Stalkers were intercepted in the last game, and now Killer has to play his hand very carefully. Does not want to lose all his Roaches. He's making 21 Mutalisks right now, but if he loses all these Roaches here, then it is a little bit painful. He won't have anything to back up the Mutalisks on the ground, and there is still a lot of Stalkers that he has to bust his way through. Also adding on a Baneling Nest is Dignitas Killer. Looks like these Roaches are going to go down. Now it's all going to come on the element of surprise. Will these Mutas carry Dignitas Killer in this game or not? He's making Muta-Ling Baneling. It's almost like we have a switch into TVZ now, or ZVT I should say. And will this be effective or not? This is actually really crazy from Killer, going for a complete surprise tech switch. I love how he's taking the northern route, so it will not be scouted by any of the Protoss units that may control the left-hand side of the map, and so the Mutas are going to make their way over to the north and try to fly into the main, and I don't think Tails is ready for this at all. So many Mutas about to fly in, and it's going to be a surprise for Tails, who doesn't have a Photon Cannon in position. He's trying to make Colossus. Colossus aren't the answer to Mutalist, and hello! That many Mutas in your base, goodbye to your probes, and so many probes falling right there, 18 total. The Mutas get away without really even a scratch, just a little bit of damage, but nothing that they can't regenerate over time. Nice little surprise tactic by Dignitas Killer, and that's the one thing that Protoss do have to be careful about when they play against Zerg. Zerg is known for the ability to tech switch right away on the dime. They can bust the U-turn, and then all of a sudden you're dealing with a whole nother tech tree that you might not be prepared for, and Tails was not ready for this. Thankfully though, he does have Blink, and with this many Stalkers on the field and Blink enabled, he can actually deal with the Mutas somewhat easily, especially since he did kill off so many roaches earlier when he caught them off at the front door against the wall of his warp gates. So the Protoss is by no means out of this game. He did lose some probes, but he is still looking pretty good here. As long as he can fend off the Muta harass, and Killer is now flying in with a bunch of Mutas. I don't really think Tails is ready for this. He's got to blink his Stalkers back. This is one problem that Tails has to deal with. He can't really push out on a map as vast as Tautorim Altar unless he wants to have Mutas killing all of his probes in his mineral line. So that's one thing that Protoss has to be so worried about, and this map is so easy for Mutas to just start into the third, fly into the main, come around to the natural, and just do damage all over the place. So it's very hard for Protoss to move out, and right now we have so many Banelings on the field. Oh my god, clutch force fields at the last second, those force fields keeping the Banelings away, and that Colossus just killed off like 17 Banelings, literally. That Colossus paying for itself well in advance, and now Tails actually able to push forward into the middle of the map with all of his Stalkers, and now will the Zerg player try to go around and fling around with a backstab with his Mutas? Or will he focus his efforts 100% on countering this attack from MVP Tails? Remember, Tails is down 1-2 in this series. He has to win this game to tie it up and go to the Grand Finals. Tails coming in here with everything that he's got. That last battle really went in favor of Tails because the Banelings were caught out of position with the force fields, and that Colossus just killed like 20 Banelings. And now Tails comes in with a huge Stalker army. Banelings just blinking out of the way. No Stalkers have gone down, maybe just one. And now it's just Stalkers versus Mutas, man, and there's way too many Stalkers for Killer to handle. And all of a sudden, Killer loses this game with a well-timed counter from MVP Tails. I just want to draw your attention once again to the battle that really dictated it all. This last fight right here with MVP Tails pushing out with his entire army, saying, you know what, screw it, I'm going to try to attack and make this happen. And the force fields literally could not have been on better time. Look at these force fields. What? And that, it looks like most of the Banelings just detonated on nothing, and then the Colossus is able to kill off a lot of the rest of the Banelings, so that was just really good for MVP Tails. And all of a sudden, the series is now tied up. Tails taking a macro game against Killer, and we're about to find out what happens in game number 5. The conclusion of the Grand Finals is about to happen, the last game in the Grand Finals of MSI's tournament. I hope you guys stay tuned to watch, and this is HD signing out.